We're taking down all the familiars here and now.
Right! Did you say all of them?
Ha ha! They might very well take all of us out in one fell swoop. Get out there and show me what you got, Ricia.
Okay.
Quick! Now's your chance!
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Anime Night, where we take a season of anime content and we dissect it episode by episode and give our thoughts on it. I'm your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. Obviously, joining me is my lovely wife, Andrea. Andrea, is it hot enough for you yet?
Almost.
So when will it be hot enough? When we're at the fiery pits of Inferno?
Pretty much.
All right, there you go. Yeah, people, she likes it really hot.
Mm-hmm.
So we are here talking more Rising the Shield Heroes Season 2. And we're 3 episodes in. And I hate to be the guy, but not a whole lot's happened. So we did the last episode where we had, what was it? Just basically a hero, like a war council.
A filler episode.
Pretty much, yeah. See, she knows her terminology, everybody. Mm-hmm. And so now we're dealing with episode 3, Shaking Land, which is now that they've put a plan into motion, now they have to execute it. And that is pretty much this entire episode. So we have a number of things going on. We have all of the pieces. I believe all of them are put in place, right? They didn't say anybody was late or anything like that.
No.
Everybody was where they needed to be. Because I thought they were supposed to be in that old fortress, but it turns out they weren't. Maybe some of them were, but not all of them. So the main army is led... So if people remember, we had a new character, Eclair. She is leading the main army to distract the Spirit Tortoise, while Naofumi is going to be taking care of all of the excess familiars that are going to be attacking, because now he has a universal taunt button, basically, which is kind of cool, actually, now that I think about it. I can't remember what it's actually called. It's like...
I can't remember.
It's like hate something. It's like hate trigger or something like that. And so he uses it to kind of lead them off, and then Raftalia and Philo are kind of helping him, but they're actually waiting for the appropriate moment to strike. And in the meantime, while the Spirit Tortoise is distracted, they're basically trying to get they want to take out one of its legs underneath it, so that at that point they can start firing all of their big weapons at it to try and kill it, specifically to take its head off. And so the plan is executing itself fairly well. They actually do... I want to say they execute, or they take out one of the legs, but I don't think they got both, and that pretty much kind of grounds the Spirit Tortoise. They actually try to execute some of their bigger their bigger ballista attacks and things like that. Doesn't really do anything, and in fact, as a response, we actually start to get some bigger familiars being sent out to kind of take care of the armies. Mm-hmm. Then we basically call in the magic casters to do the divine judgment spell that the Pope did. And that doesn't work. I think they aimed it directly at his head, didn't they?
Something like
Sorry, guys. It's been a couple of weeks, but yeah, I think they aimed it directly at his neck to cut off his head, and didn't work. Which unfortunately, because it's not the Pope channeling a bunch of blind followers, they have, what was it? I think they said it was hundreds of mages trying to cast this spell, and all of them are weak, so you only got one shot at it. And the judgment spell, I think, was just enough to get it to go down, and they thought things were done, but then what's her name? Ost?
Something like...
I think it was Ost. Ost and God damn it, it's been a while. Ricia. Ost and Ricia realize something in some of the books that they have about the Spirit Tortoise, that they discover it has a hidden attack, roughly that its shell can fire out a bunch of like spirit ballista or spirit spikes, and that as soon as everybody like tries to go in close to properly cut off the head, it launches this attack. And so it doesn't kill everybody, but it definitely took them all by surprise, killed off a good portion of the army, and at that point, it becomes necessary for Naofumi to go and join with Raphtalia and Philo to finally slice off the Spirit Tortoise's head, which in turn is not an easy task. I think ultimately what they had to do was they basically had to launch Philo and Raphtalia like a rocket in order to get them to pierce through the neck and actually cut the head off. But I can't remember, did they do it by magic? I think they did. Yes, I think they did it by magic because Ost, I think, is the one that launched them.
Yeah.
Because we actually learned that like Ost has a lot of really forbidden magic because she's the familiar of the Spirit Tortoise. And they cut the head off, and everybody is immediately confused because we immediately think now that the Spirit Tortoise is dead, Ost is going to disappear. Well, 1 minute passes, and 2 minutes pass, and 3, and 5, and 10, and nothing happens.
Surprisingly, she's still there.
She's still there. So at that point, the assumption that has to be made is that the Spirit Tortoise is still alive, and boom, that's the end of the episode. I wish I could say that there was more ultimately that happened there, but really it was just a giant battle episode. We got to see some highlights from Naofumi, from Raphtalia, from Philo. Not so much from Mauricia because she was in the back learning about the Spirit Tortoise. Eclair gets some highlights, but not really. Like she was one of the people that survived the spear attack or the spike attack, and we even see like some of the other villagers that worked with the shield hero, like they survived the attack. One of them was one of the wizard chick was one of the casters for the judgment spell. The other, like two of the soldiers are still there, and like one of them even carried his buddy up to Eclair, and so we got to have like those interesting moments here and there, but Eclair doesn't really do a whole lot. She just basically kind of sits there and looks overwhelmed by the whole situation while looking pretty. Yeah, so what did this episode do right, Andrea?
Just mostly the...
It's a giant fight scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fight scene.
Can we say at any point that the fight wasn't interesting? I don't think so. I like the fact that they took an entire episode to basically ground the Spirit Tortoise. That kind of showcases like how big the thing is and how much or not how much, how insignificant a lot of their attacks are compared to it. And then you basically hit with the Godzilla attack at the end, and everybody's like, oh shit, and then it's round 2, and now it looks like we're probably going in for a round 3, but it's just one giant fight scene.
Oh yeah.
Other things done right.
Not a whole lot.
Yeah, not really. Like we get to see we get to see Naofumi use the taunt button. That's pretty cool. He like leads off all of the familiars into like a random canyon, and then they just slowly start taking him out. It doesn't really highlight any of the generals that we saw in that war council. We know that some of them are there and some of them are not. Like there's like 1 or 2 that are really old, and so they're not there. The one I think that was in that war council that joined his crew died, so we probably can't rely on him. We actually do have a moment where we get to see like somebody report back to the queen about the spike attack, and so she basically gives authority to like basically a message gets sent where it's like Naofumi says to just trust him, and the queen's like, okay, we will. And then he goes into action, but not a whole lot else with a lot of the characters.
Yeah, it's just kind of like one of those random, like, raid boss fights there.
Yeah.
That's, like, not...
Now, with a lot of the stuff they did with Ost, and the fact that she helps them out, I remember last episode we were talking about we're not sure if she's on our side, on their side or not. Did any of this episode kind of dissuade you from that? Because
I still think
I'm not convinced either. Because
especially when
there's kind of a sense being felt that like she's holding back. Like if she knows this really forbidden spell, she probably knows others and she's not using them. Because I think they basically said that like the reason she can cast it is because she relies on the spirit tortoise for energy. And so at that point, that's why she has like all these reserves to be able to cast that.
especially since you don't even know why she wants the spirit tortoise dead.
Mm-hmm.
Or-
Well, we know why she wants the spirit tortoise dead is because she's of the opinion that somebody or something is controlling the tortoise, and so he's acting against his will, and he shouldn't be doing this.
That's true, but when you want to go after the force that's causing...
I don't think she knows what it is. So she's basically going to the shield hero to try and maybe figure that out. But it is a good question. Like, why wouldn't she go and... If she's this all-powerful being, why is she helping in the war when she could have easily figured out, like, who's doing this?
I mean, it'd be more like, it's like, why not just try and, like, not necessarily kill the spirit tortoise, but somehow subdue it to...
Yeah.
And, like, to stop it, or...
So we're both of the opinion she still isn't trustworthy.
Well, there's got to be more to it, because it just seems weird that, you're just...
Yeah, and like I said, I got the impression with some of the forbidden magic that she pulled out, she's holding back.
Because either A, it's like unless she wanted to take over what the spirit tortoise would have been,
Yeah, and I've kind of given my reasoning. Like, they make it seem like if she's able to cast these forbidden spells, it's because she's a familiar, she draws upon the reserves of the spirit tortoise to do it. And so at that point, it's a pretty big beast. So it probably has a very huge reserve.
And it's just weird.
I just get the feeling like she's holding back. I also think it was kind of weird she didn't know about the spike attack. And that I find that very, very, pardon the pun, but I find it very sus that she didn't know her boss's entire arsenal. Because, like, the way that... The reason I say that is, like, granted, I'm basing this off of a lot of other fantasy knowledge, which could not work ultimately in this world, but familiars are basically, like, soul-connected, roughly. They're basically like they're a demon for a warlock in Warcraft, where, like, they're melded to your essence, so they would know about you just as much as you would know about them. And so the fact that she's saying, like, oh, I didn't know that,
let's hope
that doesn't make sense to me.
Let's just hope that she's not like the familiar of whoever's controlling the spirit tortoise, and the spirit tortoise is like an enemy of that person.
So you're basically saying she's a familiar of a familiar of a familiar. That's why she doesn't know.
Well, she's pretending to be the familiar of the spirit tortoise, so they would help take it down.
Oh, you think she's pretending?
I don't know. That's a guess.
She could be.
Otherwise, she might as well.
Maybe she's the familiar of the spirit hair, and she just wants to kill it. I don't know. I'm drawing spirit animals out of my ass.
Because it's like, were they expecting her to disappear if the tortoise was dead?
Yeah, that was the premise.
And
like,
she never did.
If you kill a warlock in Warcraft, the demon disappears.
Yeah.
So at that point, like, the fact that she didn't is like, oh shit, yeah, he's probably not dead. Which even I kind of looked at that and went, this season has 13 episodes. He can't be dead by episode 3. That's 10 episodes of nothing happening. So, obviously, like, logic would presume he's probably not dead. At least, like, we're probably going into round 3.
I mean,
roughly.
What's so wrong of it wandering around and stopping the timer so no more of any of those catastrophe events happening?
What was that?
I'm like, why not just let the tortoise just run around and stop the timer so no more catastrophe events?
Well, because the timer, the way that he stops the timer is by killing people.
I know.
Killing people. So at that point, like, that's why they're trying to stop it. Because that's the other thing with Oz, is, like, she's not against that plan. She totally understands why the Taurus does it. That's why I don't trust her. There's more, pardon the pun, there's more than meets the eye to this situation.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so we've been talking about the positives. It's a giant fight scene. We've already talked about the negative of Ost. Like, she doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I'll say another negative is Rishia is kind of pointless in this episode. And she does not feel like a focus. In the last couple of episodes that we've had, she doesn't really feel like a focused member of the party, which is weird because, you know, she has the whole slave contract and we have to get her strong enough so she can defend the bow hero. I'm getting a little annoyed with Rishia here.
Yeah, probably no wonder why the bow hero's like, you know, I'm done. No.
I'm starting to understand his point of view, but the writers really aren't focusing on her. She's just kind of the researcher, which I don't like it. I don't like what they're doing with Rishia. Especially since Granny Monk or what do we call it? Yeah, Granny Butt Kicker. Is that what we call her? Oh, Kung Fu Grandma. Kung Fu Grandma. Kung Fu Grandma apparently sees a ton of potential within her, but
why didn't she just take her on as like an apprentice?
She did.
I know, but I mean, then she
no, she has. Like, she was working with her in the first episode, and she still thinks that there's a lot of potential there.
She could just join her party.
Well, Kung Fu Grandma is part of the party. Because she came along.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So, I mean, you know, that's the funny thing is, like, I'm more interested in what Kung Fu Grandma's doing than what Rishi is doing. Any other negatives on your end?
No, I'm just kind of glad that none of the other party, like the generals or, you know, any of the other groups are like not like arguing like that.
No, we got past the squabbling.
I know.
In the previous episode.
I know,
thankfully.
but kind of glad that it didn't happen anymore.
I mean, they could have, like, where they basically said, like, we got put on the sidelines because the shield hero's loyal to this one, and they could have done some infighting.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm glad they didn't, because that would have been stupid, and the Spirit Tortoise deserves to step on your face. Yeah, so I like the fact that because they also approach this from the angle of, like, when the spike attack happens, there's chaos on the battlefield. Nobody knows who to trust or anything like that. And that's why Naofumi sends the message saying, I have a plan, stick with me, we'll get through this. I like that because Naofumi is being basically shown as the one who's keeping his cool in a very chaotic situation. And I know that means I'm speaking ill of the other characters, and I'm not in this sense, because once the chaos of a surprise like that happens, anybody on the battlefield is going to have a tough time overcoming that. And so, like, Eclair waking up and going, what the fuck happened? That makes sense to me. But I like the fact that at least somebody in the midst of all that was keeping a cool head. And that was Naofumi. And it probably should be Naofumi, because, you know, dude from the future knows how to keep his composure. So I do like that, but yeah, I really wish I could say more about this episode, but right now, like, the episodes that we have are new threat being introduced, War Council, and now giant battle scene. Like, there's nothing else I can say.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other negatives?
None I can think of.
Okay, so out of 5, what would we label, what was it? Shaking Land. I'm gonna go with a 3. Considering it's a giant fight scene, and people would normally think that I would like these. I do, but I like it when there's a lot more stake involved, when there's a lot more potential for swerves involved. And there was only really one swerve in this episode, so I'm giving it a 3. It's still right in the middle.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 3. Just,
I mean, we have 10 more episodes. I hope we get something bigger than this, but right now this season's not turning out to be so great. So 3 for you as well. All right, that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So when we come back, it'll be episode 4 of Rising of the Shield Hero Season 2. Hopefully we kind of get out of this rut and
hopefully we'll start climbing the ladder.
Yeah, hopefully we start raising the stakes here and seeing why the vassal heroes need to be involved. In the meantime, though, thank you guys so much for your continued support. We really do appreciate it, both on the Geek News Anime Night for Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City that we're doing, specifically the Duels of Battle City, as well as for Shield Hero Season 2. We really do appreciate that. If you're brand spanking new and listening to this, you can support us by either liking and subscribing on YouTube. We appreciate that. Or you can follow us on Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Player.fm, and be able to give us a like, give us a review. That definitely helps us out greatly for it. And yeah, we will see you guys next time for Shield Hero Season 2, Episode 4. Until then...